All right, so in today's tutorial, this is part two, and we're going to dive deeper into how to work in Premiere Pro. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to drag clips in this timeline or sequence. Also, I'm going to show you how to work the effect controls, which control how videos and pictures move and how you do certain things to them. So we're just going to take a little deeper dive into what this workflow looks like and what you can do. All right. So imagine that you're doing this wonderful presentation of pictures, and this is how you get started. So I already got one picture in the timeline. I'm going to take that out just to give you a full, I guess, picture of how to do this. So here we go. So imagine that I'm doing this project really slow, and I'm going to drag in my first picture because I'm doing it picture by picture. So what do you see? First off, what you probably see is that this clip is really, really short and really, really small. So in order to make that bigger, there's a few things that you can do. So I want you to look down here at these little, this dot, that are at the ends of this little bar down here. So if you look at that, there's a few things that you can do. So number one, if you drag this, if you click and hold on it and then drag it to your left, it's going to make whatever clips in this timeline expand or get bigger. But if you drag it the opposite way, and I don't know why I just used that British accent, but let's go with it. So if you drag it the opposite way to the right, then what happens is whatever clips that you have get smaller. All right, so that is useful for either making your clips bigger or making them smaller so that you can see what you're doing. All right, so with that said, I drug my clip in here, and how do you control these clips? So number one, this clip is really zoomed in, right? Because there's other things in my picture that I've noticed when I downloaded it. So this is what you can do to just have more control over whatever clip, picture, or whatever you have in there. So number one, you want to click on it one time. What that does is it highlights it. And as you can see, this has a white border around it. So then from there, I'm going to click on effect controls. So there are a few different things in effect controls that are very important to understand. So if you look over here, let's see, let's break this down. So I just made this a little bigger. So if we look at the left-handed side of it, you can see a few things. So number one is motion. So motion is of course going to control how this clip moves. All right. So there's a few things that are controlled with motion, and I'm going to go back to the full screen that we have. All right. So over here with motion, you have position, which can move an image left to right, and I'm going to reset that, right, which is this first value. It can also move it up and down, which is this second value. And what I'm doing on each of these numbers is I'm clicking and I'm holding, and then I'm moving my mouse either to the left or the right to move it either way. I can do the same thing with the scale. The scale determines how zoomed in or how zoomed out the image is, right? So I can decide that. So next up we have rotation. All right, so rotation is just what it says. It rotates an image or even a video. So if I click and hold and move this to the right, it'll move it that way, or if I move it the opposite way, it'll do it that way. All right, so I'm gonna reset. Okay, good. Got that at 0%. And I wouldn't worry too much about the anchor point, anti-flicker filter. We'll go over that stuff later, but that's stuff that you're more than likely not going to use a lot. All right, so then going down, we have opacity. So opacity is how clear it is. So with this, I can click and hold on this 100, and I can take it to 0, and I can take it to 100. So you can use that at your leisure. You have different blend modes. We'll look at that later and what those can do, but you can experiment with it if you have multiple videos or photos piled on top of each other. But there you go. The main portion of it is this motion. All right, so with that said, we're going to look at a few different things. So number one, of course, the first step to creating this project, which is the Black History Project, if you're working specifically on this project, is you want to start organizing your images, right? So in a perfect world, if you have your let me go to my audition folder. So if I have let's say that I have my voiceover, I can put that in one of these audio tracks. I'm going to put that on the one at the bottom. You can listen to it. John Singleton was a great screenwriter, director, and filmmaker. Right? So I have that. And of course, the easiest way to do this project is to put this down here first, which again is your voiceover, so that you can then place the pictures where they are addressed in that voiceover. All right. But for the sake of what I'm doing, I'm going to mute that and I'm going to just focus on messing with these images so that you get comfortable with that. So in a perfect world, imagine that. So let's see. I don't want to get complicated. I'm going to get a little complicated. So over here, I have these pictures. So I'm going to click on my first one once like this. And it's also good to click on the icon and not the words. So anyway, clicked on the icon once. So then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click on, let me see, the last one. Or I'm going to hold down shift first and then I'm going to click on the last one time. So by doing that, it highlights all of my pictures. And so then from here, I'm going to drag it and drop it in my timeline or sequence. So here we go. Dragging and dropping them all in there. But again, you want to put them in the timeline or sequence in the order in which in the order in which they fit in with what you're talking about. So anyway, imagine I got all of these images over here. So number one, especially if I have some that are really zoomed in, to fix that, I'm going to hold down the click up here in this black area, drag it down and drag it over. Right? So I'm covering all of them. They're all highlighted. So now I'm going to right click one of them. Boom. And then I'm going to click set to frame size. Boom. So right there, what it does is it sets all of these images, the scale of it, it's going to set it to this frame size, right? So that means that I'll be able to see the entirety of each of these images, right? Boom. There we go. So they all fill up these pages. Not these pages, but the screen. Okay. So from here, I have a whole nother job. So, and actually, I'm going to show you this shortcut that's probably going to help you with these transitions. So, and you know what? I'm going to save that. So, this is part 2. So, hopefully, what you learned is number 1, how to drag your images over. And again, you want to get them organized according to what you're talking about down here in your voiceover. All right. So, with that said, from this point, I want you to get everything organized. All of these pictures should be organized. After that, after you have them organized, the next up in our next tutorial, we're going to look at animating them and making them move, which will deal mostly with motion. All right. So join me in my next tutorial so we can learn how to make these images move and also put some transitions on here.